One of my favorite things is like a pair of flip-flops, that just has like a bottle opener in the bottom. You know what I'm saying? It's like, who thinks of that,
Beer drinkers.
It's like everything you need when you're with your Speedo at the beach.
Yep. There it is.
Speedo at the beach.
Welcome to the Maven Show. I'm Aaron Hoffman. With me, Josh Malone.
Hey!
Jeremy Brown. And we would be remiss if we did not mention our special guest with us this wonderful day. When he's not too busy collecting hamsters or empty cereal boxes or starring in a cameo of Sharknado 5. This bright ray of sunshine.
Bright red.
Mark... Boom, there goes the dynamite, Malone.
Woo! Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me out.
Welcome.
Man, this has been long in coming. Has it? I've been waiting for this day for so long.
Just waiting to get behind the mic.
Now for the hazing. No.
Waterboarding.
Basically.
Get the blindfold. Somebody get the blindfold. No.
If we can get you and Josh somehow into an altercation by the end of this, I think that we will have succeeded.
I think we know that's where it's headed. We all know that's what you're going to try to provoke.
Or just arguments. Yeah, one or the other.
Yeah. It might happen just because I'm not talking close enough to my mic.
Yeah. Could you
would cause it.
Speak louder, son.
Yeah.
Talk louder.
Yeah. Son, you're going to have to talk louder.
Well, we want to talk about, I hope everybody's doing really well out there. We want to talk about a year in review of Maven Real Estate to get started. So.
What a year.
This year was pretty boring, wasn't it?
2020 really gets a bad rap.
Did anything really even happen?
Yeah.
So in the midst of it all, Mark, obviously especially in the last few months, your performance has been, you've been able to do complete 10 transactions in the last 90 days.
That is 3 months.
After one in the first year.
Right.
Yes.
So impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was all August 2019, August 2020. I mean, feeling like I came into it, I kind of thought that I knew. I mean, I knew that I didn't know a lot, but I still thought that I knew more than I did.
Sure.
This is like, I mean, just seeing Josh do something, it's always like, hey, I mean, I know he's smart. I know, but if he can do it, I can do it.
Sure. Yeah. You don't know what you know until you actually put in the work to figure out, okay, what do I not know? And you get clear perspective and self-awareness, and then you start to fix it.
Yeah. But I mean, it was like a reality slap in the face. As soon as I tried to open my first door with that, I just got a wasp just flew out and stung
your first
elbow.
showing?
Is that first showing really happened? Very first showing.
Wow. Stung by a wasp.
Stung by a wasp before I got in the first house.
Went reeling and really didn't recover for about a year.
Yeah.
It sent him spiraling for 365 days.
Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show you my mental toughness wasn't where it needed to be back then. The wasp kind of knocked me out for 6 to 8 months.
Have you been stung at the showings?
I have been stung at a showing.
You have? I have?
I've not.
No, you have. I've been at a showing where you got stung.
What?
You remember that?
Maybe I just don't have a memory.
That one abandoned building.
We know you don't have a memory, Josh.
That one abandoned building out in...
the Dibble?
Yes.
Is this at the church?
Bible college, whatever thing?
Do you remember that thing?
Yeah. Did I get stung there?
Yeah, you did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You were walking out.
No, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that location. That's like the lady thought that there was literally stolen treasure buried underneath the slab of the Bible college. And that's why everyone around there was acting so weird towards her.
It was partly, that was part of her argument for why it needed to be priced a little bit higher than you might expect.
That's like how we determine a list price.
That's got
the slab, the gold under the slab.
If you're not accounting for the buried treasure, you're really not marketing this thing well.
Now, bear in mind, we were hanging on there.
Oh, yeah.
to see if there was enough information to be like, yeah, let's go ahead and just try to
Is
figure
there
out this
buried treasure?
But at that point, we kind of drew the line at like, this is probably not going to work out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not you, it's us.
Maybe
Exactly.
maybe the buried treasure was a metaphor. You know,
Yep.
diamond in the rough,
You know,
treasure to be developed.
she didn't say that, but
That lady lived in metaphors, if that's the case.
she,
Like her life was a metaphor.
so that was when you got stung. So we've all been stung by wasps at
Gotcha.
different showings. So,
Where
but
did
hey,
you
you
get stung
persevered.
at?
Yep.
Persevered to the end.
Got past that wasp sting. Didn't get that client under contract, but
Sure.
got my first deal done in January. So about 4 or 5 months in.
Yep.
And then had to wait another 7 months for another one.
Took a 7-month break.
Yeah. I've had some sabbaticals. So
yeah.
I had like a
What were
4
you
or
doing
5
there?
month sabbatical.
What were you doing there? The sabbaticals, like just sitting on the beach?
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. You call the beach my couch.
Yeah. It's like sitting on the couch, staring at my computer, trying to get people on the phone and not hanging up on me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but
There was a learning process.
really,
A learning process there that had to sink in, and that took some time. That took some self-reflection of I've really got to figure this out.
it took some PPP loan for me to really get going.
It did.
Yeah. So really, if COVID hadn't came, I might still have a deal done. One deal, you know.
Sure.
So
There you go.
Hit him in the PPP. You know, just got it off the.
So we've got just a year in review. We've been able to help out here within just in the year of 2020. We've been able to help out to complete 94 total transactions as a real estate group in 2020. 94 total transactions.
That's a lot.
That's pretty awesome.
That's definitely our most we've ever done.
It is.
I think previously we were 80, 85, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Mark, you provide a little lift
Good
this
work.
year.
Yep. No, that's awesome.
Here we
So-
go.
Boy, I think about even some of the deals this year, and it was just like, Josh and I were talking about this the other day. It was maybe different lessons we had learned by going through how the market evolved this year due to COVID and a couple of other factors, just with supply and demand. And it was like, all of a sudden it produced a bunch of these multiple offer situations where you had people throwing crazy offers
Oh yeah.
on houses that were on the market. And
Oh, yeah.
I think part of that discussion was just how aggressive you had to be to compete in the market. That was like what we went through this year.
Yeah, because you have something listed for like 320 that's got a shop and some land or whatever, and your client's offering 10 over. You come to find out that the winning bid was like 25 over. And like, how do you appraise that? Like, there's no data for it. Yeah.
25 over. You had some multiple offer situations where the listing representation was actually requiring that you remove things like the appraisal contingency from your offer.
Yep.
So regardless of
To even be viewed, like to even be reviewed as
Yep.
an offer. Yeah.
Yep. And so it created an environment where people who had to do contingencies where they had to sell their homes in order to purchase, a lot of them were just, hey, if you wanted the 250 acre or more with a shop or something that's just like it's a nicer place, or something that was even just updated within a neighborhood, if you wanted to compete with those things, you oftentimes couldn't even do a contingency offer on those. You had to find a way to either do like some sort of bridge loan or something to disconnect the transactions, like be willing to sell your house first so that you can transition into the one that you really want to get into. But that was the environment where you had to help educate people so that they could still better their living situation. And you also had to find out a way to compete in a market that was super aggressive with multiple offers.
Yeah.
So prior to this past year and a half, how rare was it that you would get into a multiple offer situation? I mean, was it still very consistent or was it?
It wasn't anything like this year. This year was like you still had them, from my experience, you still had them occurring.
Yeah.
But
There
it
particular
was,
properties where they would occur.
it was the absolute best of the best properties. And what we ended up seeing was,
And it might be a thing where it's like 10, maybe 15 over on even like kind of 320 kind of range
Yeah.
versus 20
Would you say even if you if you put 10 over or 10.5 over, there's a really good shot you're going to get that house like in past.
Previously,
especially if it's already listed pretty well with the market. Like even if it's a high demand house,
here's a factor. I got to say, there's a factor to this that I think we could see how the folks we were helping purchase and why we were able to compete in multiple offer situation and get more transactions done during this period. Part of it was educating the people we were representing and the buyers by telling them the market that you're going into to compete against in this multiple offer situation, they've learned that they're going to offer 10 grand over and not win. Mm-hmm. And that was something that was substantially different from the past was you had a bunch of, and you might have 3 to half a dozen offers on a particular house that was the best of the best home.
Yep.
Well, what we experience now is you had like a dozen offers, and many of those were people who had already experienced losing.
Yep. Yeah.
And they were like, I can't do that same offer and expect to get this house. Yep. And it jacked everything up on the purchase and what you had to do.
But you've got like 4 people who've had those experiences already because there's so few properties.
So
they're all like competing with each other. And then they learn again, like, wait, I can't do 15 over. I got to go more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they still got to move. They still got to find a way to get in a better living arrangement. For a lot of these people, they still got to figure out how to do it.
Yep.
And so,
people want to capitalize on the interest rates.
Great point, because that was one of the things was just like even in a market where that was the case, and you had to. People can look at it and they can convince themselves they're overpaying, quote unquote, overpaying for a house. Mm-hmm. But when you look at what you get for the interest rate, it was incredible.
If you're paying
how much
10% more for the house, but the interest rate dropped by somewhere around 30%. Like you're still coming out ahead.
Totally, 100% right.
You just have that much less interest you're going to pay over the life.
So is that much more important for us to figure out with the difficulty of the market and the competitive nature of it? How do we coach our clients into getting them into a better living arrangement than what they were in, and making sure that they could actually be served and be thrilled with the results? So that was a lot of when we were talking about that the other day. That was a lot that. I know we discussed that a little bit. I don't know if there were other things that you guys think of, even particular transactions or difficult situations that came up in particular transactions. I am beyond sick of flood insurance personally.
Oh man. No, but you had this weird combo of like flood insurance plus finding out that someone had made an offer that was better after you guys had it under contract, and they were on as a backup offer, maybe 5 or 10 grand above. And the seller was like, if you guys don't close on closing day, we're going to bust this deal and go with the better offer because we want the more money.
Oh, yeah.
And so literally someone's over there baiting them with an extra 10 grand, and you have to find a way to get the flood insurance cleared. Not just like get it cleared, but get it cleared in such a timely manner that you can actually close so the whole thing doesn't fall apart
on time.
Because it was one of those crazy, apparently there was a contract change last year, something like that impacted not having an extension on the financing addendum or whatever.
In the way that it's agreed to in the written language on a contract, on a uniform contract to sale for purchasing a home. The language had actually changed on that. Yeah. No, that's right.
And so it was like
it basically provided an out for a seller. So if they're marketing a house and they get, and then they receive an offer, they accept it, they get it under contract, but they get, let's just say that somebody contacts that agent and calls them and they're like, hey, is this under contract? And then they schedule to do a showing and they view it. And then they write a backup offer and then that seller they get presented that backup offer because of the language and the way that it's written in that uniform contract to sale, which is the typical contract that people use within the real estate market in Oklahoma City. Because of that language, if that seller decides, hey, I love this backup offer, it's better than the one that I got under contract. If there's even a 1-day delay because the time is of the essence language in that uniform contract to sale, that seller, they didn't even have to tell me, hey, your deal's kaput.
Wow. You could literally get blindsided by the deal just falling through because the flood insurance thing delayed the financing so that there was no more financing extension. And so,
Now it seems it's just, we've even checked with
the real estate commission.
With the real estate commission.
Nope, that's what it is. It's like, that's insanity. Because you're literally having a seller who's sitting around rooting for you to not.
What's their incentive to stay in the deal at that point? Other than especially depending on what the backup offer is. Yeah, it was just once we learned about that, it was just how terrible of a thing.
But you were in a situation where you had to thread the needle between both of those things, and somehow not just like talk to the lender, right? Like the lender tells you there's a flood insurance problem.
Yep.
You call the flood company, and was there another company behind that you even spoke to?
It was the company who provides the flood certificate regarding the status of
whether or not it's in a flood zone.
if it's in a flood zone. And I contacted them, and they were like out of Texas or something. Contacted them, and I was like, well, from what I can tell, it looks like that the house is not actually in the flood zone. There is this secondary structure that is behind the residence that's like a pole barn with like a dirt floor.
Not even like a shop, like a pole barn. Yeah.
Like a shop. And I'm like, and that looks like that could be in it based upon what you've provided on this aerial shot on the document that you gave to the lender regarding flood insurance status.
And they're like, oh, that's not the house.
And they're like, okay, does it have a concrete floor? Or is it like dirt or like what's, and I'm like, it's a dirt floor. So I was able to arrange in time without delaying the transaction, photographic proof of the construction of that pole barn, get that submitted and corrected so that the person who was buying that house was not required to purchase flood insurance, which obviously was going to increase his monthly payment and all that stuff. And still close on time. I think we actually closed the day before our original closing.
It was with
day.
Dominic, right?
It was with,
Yeah, and that's the only reason it was possible. Another shameless plug here.
Yeah, with Cornerstone, that's with Dominic.
Literally, the deal would have fallen through if it wasn't Dominic, like if it wasn't there too.
Well, so I've got my story like that.
All right,
remember the electrical pole. Whoever would have thought?
Oh, yes.
So
like within the fall zone?
You can't get an FHA, the FHA requires for a electrical pole to not be within falling distance of a house. And that if there's a pole there, the appraiser can require you to get an engineer to look at that and provide a report. And I still don't know to this day how we were able to close on that with that pole, because they didn't move the pole, and we looked into what it costs to move one electrical pole, and it is more than $10,000 to move one electrical pole. So,
and this, what kind of pole was it? Was it the high? It was a wood.
No. This was a wooden electrical pole, just your normal wooden electrical pole that you would see behind your house, or this one went in front of the house.
And for whatever reason, it was just close enough that if it fell,
literally 3 feet, it was 3 feet. The height of the pole was 3 feet taller than the distance to the house. So, I mean, the likelihood that this pole ever, and they're designed to take hurricane or like tornado winds.
It breaks at the very bottom of the base, and it's not like 4 feet up from.
It's
the
very
base
arbitrary thing. It's very, very arbitrary. I mean, the thing was like Ogenie said, like that if it were to be taken out, the house is going to be taken out. Like if that pole comes down, you're not be worried about it falling on the house.
It's like you just got slammed by the nadir, baby.
Yeah. So. But somehow Cornerstone was able to get it done, and
that was through Cornerstone.
That was Cornerstone too. Yep.
Did they switch to conventional?
No, they did it FHA.
Wow.
Yep, they did it.
They
FHA.
just like got them on the horn, or wow.
They actually talked to the person, like the head of FHA,
but it was
over
problematic
that kind of thing
because the falling distance radius,
the height if it were to fall,
the pole situated near the home.
And there was the craziest thing was like literally the builder had an engineer evaluate everything and make sure, like, I don't know if the engineer didn't know about the FHA guideline.
Yeah, sure.
Really, the house shouldn't have been, according to the letter of the law with the FHA, the house shouldn't have been built in that proximity of the pole. But
so you're able to get that one closed.
Yeah, real estate.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yay, Cornerstone.
Oh yeah.
Now,
thank you.
When I think about Cornerstone, it's just like, really all I can say is just don't buy engagement rings while you're under contract.
That's happened not once. But twice. To Mark.
2 different people bought engagement rings.
Yep.
Babe, we're about to get that house.
How much?
Let's get this sealed.
How much?
Yeah. So these were people who were purchasing homes, and while they're under contract, because we've had to tell people, it's like, hey, listen, don't get a credit card at Ashley Furniture, or go get a credit card and load up a bunch of electrical equipment or electronics, and
which is hard to do. I just experienced that. It's hard to wait till after closing.
Yes.
Yeah, but for some reason, I guess I just haven't.
Don't put that on a credit card.
I just haven't hit that hard enough with my clients where, hey, go ahead and wait to pop the question until after we close this.
Like I didn't front load that well enough.
Or at least don't purchase.
Yeah.
Don't purchase the engagement ring.
Until
Go
the
for the
day.
quarter, quarter ring machine, Don't
Ring pop.
ring pop.
What are,
ring pop.
What
A
are
string.
some of my other crazy stories that I should maybe share?
Oh my
As
goodness.
far as,
I'm sure you'll think of them.
I mean, it's like,
Do you have any that you know of right off here, Josh? You think of?
Oh, I'm looking through his list. My memory. I mean, you had your flood insurance issue that Aaron solved
that was
again.
kind of in the background.
Got resolved, man.
Yeah.
Got resolved. Yeah, I was grateful that was the case for them too. So,
Yep. I mean,
Aaron's favorite word is Loma. Just Loma.
oh my goodness, letter of map amendment. It just gets me like
the shakes.
I start to get dizzy and like everything goes black.
No, not again. Not again.
Oh, Lord.
And it's just we can do an e-loma. It's faster.
Yeah. Electronic
Don't.
lomas are not any better at all.
So yeah, I think
No,
of flood
I mean,
insurance and that all that stuff. I'm just
yours,
like,
yours are more like the clients along the way that we've had to get past.
And I feel like that really has something to say with me needing to control them better or handle them better.
this is all. It all sounds entirely more manipulative from us.
It's amazing how
than
manipulative that sounds.
Than it should.
That's right. That's right.
Like Elf on a Shelf. I have never understood what that was for. Was it you that told me? I don't know who it was that told me what it was, but do you know what it is?
Sorcery.
Do you know what it is? It's like the elf that's supposed to sit there and watch you,
It watches the kids.
make sure the kids are doing good before Santa comes.
It's like Santa on a whole nother level.
Jess's mom asked for Snoop on a stoop. It's like
Snoop
this little
Dogg.
thing of Snoop Dogg smoking a joint. You just sit on the shelf. Snoop on a stoop.
Oh
my goodness.
He sees you when you're sleeping. Man, Santa Claus is a creeper.
Snoop a loop.
He performed at Top Golf last year.
In Oklahoma City?
Snoop Dogg. It was
Man,
just
how
a
do we
in the
miss
middle
that?
of the fairway?
Yeah, like in the middle of the fairway. I think he
Wow.
did like a DJ set, but
Do they hit balls at him?
I would have gone if it wasn't a DJ set, just to, it's Snoop Dogg.
What's
Yeah,
a
right?
DJ set mean? What does that mean? DJ
I mean, I
set.
think he was just up there kind of spinning some discs and yeah, that type of stuff.
DJ
So
set.
Snoop was DJing, but he wasn't.
Yeah, weird stuff.
Do you know Snoop Dogg's a Grant Cardone fan?
A lot of people are Grant Cardone fans.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone he's worth being a fan of. He's weird, but
Uncle G.
So maybe I don't know. Maybe it's better to ask it for you, Mark. I'm trying to think of a question to ask that'll help with like jog your own memories of different things that happened.
It's like everything that happened in those transactions were almost that high intensity because of the people I was dealing with, though, So it's like,
well, here's the thing though, that it's like, I think that part of what you learned, especially just recently, part of what you learned was just being understanding of the person when they're going through buying and selling a house.
yeah,
It's like, it's one of the largest pitfalls within our industry is a realtor who's like a real estate agent who's so self-absorbed that they do not take time to understand what a person is going through when they're buying and selling a house.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things it's like this underlying principle of when we decided we were going to do real estate, we were just like, okay, it's based off of basically you want to treat people the way that you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Sort
Yeah.
of principally.
Right.
That's what it is.
Like truly serving them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
truly serving them. It's just like, well, if you don't understand their mindset and what they're thinking through and what they're going through,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to actually be able to help them get the right perspective or get the right understanding? Or just people can get all caught up in sort of, oh, that person just doesn't understand. Like, look at how terrible they're being when they're negotiating in this way and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just like, there's a lot more to it than I think the immediate emotional response, because you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars and a lot of time that a buyer or seller has to invest into a transaction.
Yep.
And so I think you being able to kind of just, I don't know if better terminology is available, step outside of yourself to try to put yourself in the shoes of the person you're assisting with buying and selling.
Yeah. It's like,
and specifically to like verbally communicate in a way that's helpful to them. It's one thing if you can even understand it, where they're at. It's another thing to communicate in a way that's helpful to them.
Yeah.
And that's where you can say more about whatever you want.
I'd say it's really just asking more questions as opposed to hearing something and assuming that, oh yeah, that's what they meant. I'm going to set this search up. I'm going to, send them this type of house, as opposed to asking them an extra question and sending them the right house, Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So,
and
instead of like, cause I definitely struggled with this for a while of like filling in the gaps too quickly, where it's like, you'll get 3 or 4 pieces of information out of the 7 that you need. And so you'll just make assumptions about the rest of them.
Yeah.
And you'll fill in the gaps for the people and be like, oh yeah. No, I know what they're talking about. Cause I hear what they're talking about. But the details on those other criteria can sometimes be so earth-shattering different. Well, to where they're even competing with the other criteria that they have, but they just haven't expressed it yet because you haven't asked. And by asking that extra question to get it clarified, to get really precise, really exact, that's what actually unlocks the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't ask it, you're stuck. Like you're stuck right where they are. Like they can go plug that criteria into Zillow. By asking the extra question and forcing them to think further about it, you're actually moving them past, oh, I'm a home search tool, into like, oh, I'm making you actually evaluate all the pieces to this and leading you along in the transaction.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It builds a ton of trust. I think about specifically, there was something that happened where you being able to assist somebody who had to do contingency offers.
Yeah.
Or they were thinking they had to do contingency offers. I think that was the case, at least in, what we saw with recent transactions, and being able to help them evaluate what's the best way for you to get in the house that you really want to get into. How does that need to be arranged? What's the time frame? Walking through that.
Yeah.
But that turn of being able to do that with people, maybe you can speak about a couple things related to that, but I feel like that was a pretty big shift for you and feeling like, hey, I know what I need to know to be able to help this person the way that I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was honestly, because it was just a couple days, right, leading up to an appointment that I had in August with a list buy, that we had been talking about all that same stuff. And then,
you and me talking.
Yeah. Me and you had been talking over the phone about sort of that same stuff. And then, once you put that in practice, it was right in front of me that next day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then, since then I've had, 2 or 3 list buys, but it's like, just tweaking one aspect of it almost provided, 6 deals towards the end of the year. So it's like, how many more aspects of it that you can just tweak and get better at, over time? Cause it's not, I mean, everybody wants to be done in 5-10 years, but I mean, you gotta have something special to be able to actually do it. So, yeah.
And for that tweaking, it's like, would you say it's tweaking something that, like, you had to get knowledge about how to handle the situation? Is it tweaking the way that you communicated something, or what would you say is really occurring there that you saw, like, hey, this is really what that difference was for me?
I think it's a little bit of each of those things, even being in those situations and hearing myself say something. I'm like, oh yeah, that was perfect. In my head, I'm like,
how good does that feel?
It's like the first time that happens, you're like, oh wow, I'm kind of, I feel like I have control over, how much business, more control over how much business you have.
Yep. Because
you're not just kind of sitting there, wondering what people are thinking, And
that's what's interesting, is just like, I think a lot of people think of it, they interpret like tactical strategy of how you handle conversations as it relates to sales, as if it's like slimy or schemy and that sort of stuff.
Like manipulative.
But in reality, I do remember this when we talked about that shortly after you had that, especially that first list buy where there was a change.
Yeah.
When we talked about that, you were talking to me about the difference you saw in them that was like the person you're speaking with, where you provided the clarity And that there was a relief to them.
Yeah.
Because now they knew. It was literally, it's not the slimy, schemy, just trying to turn over sales.
It's information. Like it's actually like
you empowered them to make what was the best decision for them because you provided them the correct information and you were able to go through that with them, verbally communicate those things with them. And I remember you talking to me about that, how it was, you could see the relief that was brought to them, that was actually the case.
And it's like that's almost at that point, almost a relief to myself, you know, because it's like, you know, I've been doing this a year now, and, you know, I mean, it's just kind of a roll of the dice, a flip of the coin. If I'm going to have a showing, you know, like I can't believe all the stuff I'd get excited about whenever I first got into real estate. I'd be like, oh,
like what? What would you get all excited about?
Whenever I'd see a new lead pop in through Boomtown, I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, like John is, I'm going to give him a call tonight. Yeah, this is it, you know.
His phone number's bad, but his email, it says his email's still good. So let me try emailing him 17 times.
McFlurry just signed up to look for houses.
Yeah. Oh man, there was one. Taco Beans Jackson.
There's a lead name.
Yeah. Like I'd probably get excited about a Taco Beans Jackson coming through. Like, oh yeah, it might not be Taco Beans himself, but maybe I can get connected with someone.
Maybe if I ask somebody, is Taco Beans there, they'll be able to refer me to him.
But you get excited about and listen, it is funny because we've taken deals from people who have like, they make those profiles or whatever on that home search website. Yeah. I've spoken with them. And they end up being a client. And they're like, it was like,
oh, you actually know what you're talking about. Yeah, here's my real name.
Well, because they sign up with 12 other home search websites. And then when we're able to visit with them and answer questions and even ask them questions that get wheels turning to resolve problems they haven't even thought of. When we prove that we can do that and we can do it in a 15-minute conversation with people, even though they gave us a fake name initially when they're searching in houses, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this person actually isn't self-interested and they know what they're talking about. Yeah. I'm going to see if they can help me with buying and selling.
When you know, Taco Beans turns to Tyler, you know, whenever
you actually
get the transformation.
That's right.
When you know what you're talking about, Taco Beans turns into Tyler. Wow.
No, that's right. No, but it's like you talk about getting giddy when you see the lead come in.
Yeah. Or like, even like a showing request.
Yep.
I would be like, oh yes, I've got a showing today. Even if I was putting in an offer, it'd be like, this offer is not good, you know?
Like it's not money because I don't know how to tell them when I show up to my showing. Dude, like you need to make a good offer.
Realistically, I probably spent 20 hours driving around showing different plats of land and property with land on it to people who wanted to grow marijuana.
You learned a lot about county regulations related to marijuana.
And I've never gotten one of those deals closed. So I learned quite a bit about regulations, but maybe they'll come in the line and hand down 5 years down the line.
Yep. Maybe some way down the road they would, but you would talk about this. I mean, so it almost sounds as if, correct me if I'm wrong, it almost sounds as if you would have these different times where you'd like, oh, I got this lead. And so now I'm going to do the showing.
And it'd be like, I almost didn't want to tell you guys about it, you know, because I'd be like, oh, wow. Why? You know, they might look at this as complete waste of time. But it's like, it was like scared of being corrected in a way. But I think, I just didn't really know what I was doing, you know? And
you wanted to look more like you did, or you were worried about what's going to happen.
I wanted to pull one of those deals out of my butt so that I could be like, oh yeah, you guys look at that.
Yeah. Proved you wrong.
Your face.
Yep. Yeah.
They're not a complete waste of time.
Yeah. I mean, they're a person too.
Well, that's what's crazy. And we don't mean to say it in like a way that's demeaning or something towards people who are like, they're trying to solve problems in their life and they're trying to, maybe they have, you know, you talk about all the people with like marijuana farms and growing and all that stuff. It's whatever. I mean, anybody I feel like who can establish some sort of financial independence where they're not dependent upon a bunch of other people who are self-interested, I'm pretty jacked about trying to help somebody do that.
Yeah.
But at some point when there's, you know, what the market actually will give a person for what they're willing to pay and their different constraints, like whether it's contingency related or like the timing of things, like all the different factors into whether or not they can actually purchase what they want. Mm-hmm. When you know those things and you're like, this is not, you're not going to be able to find what you want.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that because like, I'm just selfish. Mm-hmm. It's like, I do want to have a conversation about, is there something that you can find that is sufficient enough that you will still be happy with? And you're having that conversation with the person. But when a person doesn't want to respect that, the person, because I'm trying to have that conversation in a way that is like, I want to be respectful of their time and their efforts and all of that. If they don't want to respect my understanding of what the market will actually give them, which means, and this is some of it too.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can talk about this too. It's just like your own personal experience for learning the market, knowing what people can actually find. Mm-hmm. When you try to have that conversation and they're just like, I can find somebody else to show me houses. Hey, well, you need to have that conversation to actually help them early on in that when they're searching for places, which means you got to know the market, which means you got to be you got to be comfortable enough with potential conflict with people in conversation so that you can actually provide service and help them.
Yeah. And ask the obvious question. That is what is the big mess for the person of like, because the reason that you don't get the clarity a lot of times and ask the question is because you're afraid of the conflict that might arise. And wait, they might think I'm rude if I ask that. And I'm like, I'm going to ask that because it's obvious. Like, that's your problem. How do we fix the problem? You know?
Yeah.
Well, like one thing this makes me think of is you meet so many people and they're trying to be crafty about, how they're going to find their, if they look hard enough, they're going to find that deal that's out there.
Real clever.
If they're crafty, they're going to find that lender that's going to give them the same interest rate, even though they can't qualify, whatever. They're really looking hard to either for the money, for the deal.
Yep.
And to some degree, it's like all I do is sit around for the most part and think about how to sell people real estate. Like that's all I do. Like I'm looking for properties and I'm trying to connect those properties with people. And also I'm looking for financing and trying to connect that money with people. Yep. That's all I do. And you think you're going to find it better than I will, or that there's going to be something out there that exists that I don't like. I really want to sell you something. I really want to sell you something that you like, but I'm going to somehow like hide it from you or you in your limited amount of time while you're also doing your day job are going to find it. Yep. It's just, we really want to be creative. We want to be creative.
But listen, there's that fine line with people, especially agents. When I talk about you or when I think back when we got started, it's just like the difficulty of it is having a misplaced confidence.
Yep.
And that's what comes across when you're actually communicating to people. Yeah. It's like, if you don't know the market, you're not able to handle those difficult conversations.
Yeah, you don't know the financing of the process, or
like it's just like not only will you make a bad name, you won't be able to turn deals, but you'll make a bad name for the brokerage.
Oh yeah,
and you'll end up. What they'll do is they'll communicate to friends and basically say all this stuff about like, well, this person,
he's an arrogant know-it-all who's
an arrogant know-it-all who doesn't actually know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it's like there's no way around it. You've got to know the market. You have to be able to. You gotta have a certain depth of knowledge regarding people, almost as like a psychology. I mean, you gotta have some sort of understanding of people and the potential things that get in their way so that you can help them think clearly about the decisions they're making. And then you got to be willing to verbally communicate about those things. And I think I don't know what the tipping point for you was when you think about that, but it just seems to be so starkly, something occurred where it was just like 4 months ago, roughly. There was like this, it shifted in your head.
Because it wasn't even, from outside looking in at least, it didn't even seem like it was just, oh, you got the list buy piece of like, you figured out how to help people with a listing and like selling their house and contingency stuff. It was like around that time, somehow there was this mechanism that you actually started implementing that we've been leaning on you for like months and months and months. Like just call and ask a question. Just like admit that you don't know a thing and come get the information.
Like contacting us.
Call Aaron and say, hey, I need, this is like a transparency with how the bad conversations went. It's like, I got hung up on by this person. Here's the exact sequence of things that I said. What did I miss?
Yeah. Where did it go wrong?
And that submitting yourself, like opening yourself up for review.
Yep.
That's what I thought really clicked. And I don't know why that clicked finally,
Yeah.
Because we were trying to get that for a long time, but like, I don't know if you can speak to that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe just the pressure at that time too, you know, with with having made $3,800 in a full year, you know? So it's like, dude, I mean, what even is that a month?
Yeah. That is not a lot of money a month.
That's
like,
tough.
Like under 300 a month, 380 a month, but I don't know. It's just, I think I would say that the desire has always been there to want to do more and be more, but it's just like, I feel like in some of those earlier times that maybe I just didn't want to bother people. Maybe I just didn't want to bother people because I knew also it would turn into another 2 hours for me too, you know? So it was like really almost trying to control my time in some sense of like, oh, I'm not going to call Josh or Hoff because it's going to be a 2-hour phone call, which I need that 2-hour phone call. But it's like that 2-hour phone call is the rest of my night, you know? So it's like,
well, what's interesting, I think, when you talk about that, I remember you saying that to me because
I used to tell
we're very different in the way that we operate in terms of just like, and some of that's even because like y'all are brothers. I mean, there's something, right? There's something to be said about just like, he's going to relate differently. And that's also more how he is. But I'll be like, okay, walk me through the specific sentences and we'll go through that. And it's just like in 10 minutes, because I'm aiming to try to solve it as quickly as I can for you too.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, there's a lot of that I just focus on the pace of things and the effectiveness of things. And it's just, is it efficient?
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of hang my hat. And so there's a different, we operate differently on that. Like, and
it's not actually like one way or the other is not better really than the other. I guess some people just respond to the other better. Cause Josh, I feel like Josh, whenever something's going on, Josh likes to point out about 10 or 15 different options that can be taken care of, you know? Like we go through the specific details of everything, you know? It's like, hey Josh, I just need to figure out what I need to put in this blank right now. But yeah, I mean,
100% right. And that is the difference. It actually works really well in a business partnership, by the way. But that's interesting that just talk about that. Cause it was just that different experience that you had where it was just visiting with me.
I think it's like, if you're on the phones, you know, going through calls and then, you know, I want to give Hoff a call cause he's going to have me there 10, 15 minutes.
Max.
And just go through the specific conversation and then, you know, point out the areas I could do better, start studying that for the next day as opposed to, sometimes.
Well, no, totally. And that's part of why
everybody understands.
Like, and that's part of why I was like, oh, I know Hoff does that way better in terms of getting to exactly the right thing in a management kind of context. So I'm like, call Hoff, please.
Which I think ever since we went to those weekly phone calls, me and you, and then calling Hoff pretty much for anything quickly in between, it's like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Cause when I'm working through a spreadsheet and have like a process that I'm working through,
oh my gosh, right.
You know, hey, once a week, let's fill out the spreadsheet together.
Hey, sometimes they'll go up to 2 or 3 hours.
That's
sometimes the hour.
Right. But it's only when we're talking about your dreams of your honeymoon. So, you know,
my hopes and dreams.
How to get you that Ford Bronco.
Yeah. When's that coming?
What?
Oh yeah.
Before you know it. And I even noticed, one of the things I noticed when I was on the phone with you is you got to where you would ask me something. And previously you would ask me something and you would like, it wasn't that I didn't think you were listening at the time or something, but in a way where you were going to remember it if your life depended on it.
Yeah.
Cause you would be typing it or writing it. Mm-hmm. You would ask me to repeat it. And you were trying to stick to the exact words in the way I was trying to phrase it.
It's like, so slow down. I got to get that down real quick.
Yeah. So there was even, you were becoming that deliberate in the way that you would communicate something to a person.
And I think it's just, realizing you're back to square one. I mean, never really left square one, but it was like feeling like I was even back to square one.
I know, but isn't that crazy? It's like, that's so crucial for a person to be, I mean, what they think they have to do is they've got to like give people the impression that they know what they're doing.
Yep.
Instead of actually knowing what they're doing.
Yep.
And the chasm there is why a bunch of people give up when stuff gets difficult, especially business related, but just like personal, whatever they're going through. It's like a person, you can look at that in your first year in real estate and you're just like, I don't want people to know. I don't want them to be as aware that the way that I think I need to do this is not going to be successful.
Yeah.
It's that sort of humility of looking at it and being like, nah, the way that I think this should work, that doesn't actually work.
Yeah. It's like you had to quit on your like ideas of how you would get the thing done or how you would be the one who would figure it all out to get the thing done and actually ask for help, like, and actually in a very open way.
Yeah. And it saves so much time.
Oh,
isn't that crazy? Because that's,
like, you think it's going to take all the time. Yeah.
That's actually an awesome thing to bring up because a lot of people who think you got to do the fake it till you make it thing, it's just their perspective also is just all that hard work and the getting knowledge and the correcting my problems and the self-discipline and all that. That's what takes time and is going to like waste time.
Yeah.
Now, actually, if you do it, that is actually what will produce more time for you.
Oh, yeah.
To make more money and be more successful.
Yeah.
It's like you do have to do it. It's inescapable.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Oh, yeah. So you literally fix that piece. You fix the active listening, detailed, like willingness to take the extra time to strategize, to have the extra like mastery hour kind of time invested into like getting it right. And then you go from nothing, like one deal from the previous year. And then in the following 6 months, you do, or 5 months, you do what? How many was it? 12?
He did
12?
10 in the last 3.
He did 10 in the last 3. Yeah, no, and you like laid the foundation in those months to get all those closed. And that's only because you humbled yourself and decided, I'm going to start listening. And what's crazy is that level of listening in those moments with Hoff, that translates to how you listen to your clients too. Which is the very mechanism you have to be paying such close attention to the people that you do identify where are the pain points, that you do identify where are the gaps between what you just said, because it's not adding up. It's not making sense to me because it has to make sense. Like it has to all come together. I'm not going to fill in the gaps. I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm going to listen. And
it's the only way to help people make the best decision that they need to make. Yeah. It's the only way to be able to do that. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
No, that's
and as a result of that, it's like this confidence switch that's happened in you, like where you actually know when you know something and you know when you don't know something. And so you can be really confident when you know it. And it's just like, very obvious, very obvious. Like, you know, I'm not saying you got like a swag in a bad way, but there's like there's an air.
Listen, there's an appropriate, there's an appropriate
like
amount this should come with actually knowing what you're doing and being able to help people. That's not misplaced.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's.
I feel like somewhere there in July, Mark became a Maven.
Yeah, it was kind of like the cocoon finally I just erupted from the cocoon.
That's right.
Just broke through it.
Exploding.
Spread my wings.
That's right. You're a peacock. You're a peacock. I've got to fly. Right. Something like that.
So it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome work.
Well, we're thrilled that's the case. We are so happy about your own personal perseverance through all that.
I definitely questioned whether you were going to survive. I questioned whether we should have you in the first place. I questioned whether you were going to, make it. It was like having these conversations, like how long do we let him go? Like when are we going to fire him? I don't know.
That point about just the humility that you've taken on, Mark. It's like that is that thing that's been tweaked and you put into place in a way that what it does is it allows really healthy accountability with others who are willing to help you. And it's that accountability that's necessary in order to be effective and produce results.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where like the line of it goes into place where I think all along the way, you can have a perspective where you think you've got it all handled and you know what you're doing to a degree that's actually it's you thinking that is actually what's holding you back at this point.
Yeah.
But once that gets put into the right place and there's willingness to take correction and then there's accountability that's healthy that should actually exist, then you can experience the success that you really want to experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's literally you talked about the first day or whatever, like where we dumped way too much information on you in a 48-hour period. It was like 12 hours of audio we had recorded for those 2 days or something like that.
Much.
Just go listen to this over and over and over. But talking about radical transparency, the Ray Dalio stuff, it was like you finally actually implemented that.
Yeah.
Where what was best could actually win in your own head because you were willing to be transparent, take the correction, and then you would actually get to what's best.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'd love to just go back and listen to some of my calls from just to honestly know what it was. Cause I don't know now,
Sure.
It's like, I just like to go listen to a few of those, be like, what was I doing? Like figure out where that aspect of it was.
Yeah. Cause looking back on it, it's so obvious once you finally get the right pieces of communication, like understanding the ways people are misunderstanding you and understanding the ways that they need to be advised so that they can actually make the best decision. And looking back, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, you do this. But when you're in the middle of it, it's like, just overwhelming, crushing. You start to blame everything else. You start to blame the lead source. And you're like, let's try to go run my own Facebook ads for my own Facebook page and see if I get better leads. And it's like, no, the question is, can you develop trust from a human being?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get that lead on the phone. Can you get their trust?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you deserve their trust by providing them the contextual, the right information for their situation to where, wow, that unlocks everything for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you say like you can't really tell or put your finger on the difference between like the old conversation and the now or whatever. Like I think the difference, but I haven't heard your thoughts on this or whatever, but like the difference between a good sales phone call and a bad sales phone call is not all that. It's really not all that different. Like the script is not very different. Like it's really just knowing the pivots in the conversation and where you're trying to take the person to, as opposed to.
It's like hearing what their points. It's knowing where you're trying to get them to, but it's hearing what they're actually saying. Because sometimes they'll tell you, I want a 4-bed, but you haven't actually understood their motivation to the point of like, I want a 4-bed because I've got all these children that I've got to have bunk bed room for or something like that. Or I want a 4-bed because I've got to have my game space, like my, video game, whatever. Or I've got to have a 4-bed because I'm working from home now and I need an office. That's going to lead to all kinds of different
places.
Like if you have somebody who tells you they need a 4-bed, but you don't understand that they're potentially wanting those bedrooms to be like a mother-in-law suite, and they're counting on money that person might be bringing in order to do a transaction.
Like to where there's no deal if mother-in-law can't come in. Correct. And you've got to have the bathroom attached.
But you never got to where you understood if that was actually in their consideration, that you can never even know the magical house that's going to come onto the market for them to be like, let's move forward. It actually can't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of agents get to where they can just be like, that house is eventually going to come up, but they never even clarify all the reasoning and the thinking behind and the motivation behind
why there aren't so many already.
Why did they not, like, what have they not found? And like, what are the underlying reasons for why they say that they need this particular criteria? Mm-hmm. Yep. And so it's a lot of that magical house is going to pop up, or the war of attrition, sort of just give this enough time.
Eventually and they'll find something.
They'll just cave and give up and buy something.
Right.
Do you know how self-serving that is?
Oh yeah. Like, let's just wear them down instead of actually dealing with the problem and helping them reason through it.
Like, because they're not even going to be happy in the end when that happens. It's like they're not even
quitting instead of like realizing, oh, these are my constraints, and now I'm embracing this thing that I can actually have. One of my a great example of this, and because people's criteria is so complicated. Like what you need in a home, it touches so many aspects of your life, and it's really hard to bring them all out right up front. So sometimes it is like you get into houses and you're in the 7th house, and then the thing comes out that changes everything, but they couldn't have really brought it up before because there's just so many pieces. Right. But like an example is somebody who wants to go out to the boonies, right? Like to get out of Dodge, be a little bit off the grid, kind of that direction, right? And a lot of people, because of COVID and everything going on, like want that right now.
Yep.
Who for their job, they have to have high speed internet. And you're like, you need fiber. Yeah. You need fiber in the middle of nowhere. Let's have a conversation about which one of those is a priority. Because until you can talk about like those motivations of like, why do you want this? And why do you want this? You can't even talk about like which one's actually more important. Like, is your day-to-day work more important, or is your like escaping
survival for
like having the backup plan? Because then it's maybe, okay, we buy the place in town and then we buy the land so that we can escape if it all, but now we know we're not looking for the house that's out there, or we know we need to spend the extra 100 to 150,000 to find the house that's going to have the land kind of stuff we're looking for, the shop kind of stuff we're looking for, but is close enough to have fiber. And it's like, you can't even make those compromise decisions like until you have those motivation pieces.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'd say that's one of the biggest differences is in some of those early, whenever I'd talk with people, it'd be more like, I got their criteria. I'm ready to get them set up on a search, get them a few, my question would be, how long, ideally, when would you like to be in a new place by, as opposed to what motivate, or like, what is that motivating factor? What could come like up between now and then, and whenever you ask that, it's like, oh, well, we've got another kid on the way. We need another room, It's like, it opens up about 30 different possibilities, endless possibilities. Actually, but.
No,
well, and that whole war of attrition thing, I mean, that you were talking about, Aaron. It's like, what a terrible, like, you can't explain that game plan to the client. Like, so what we're going to do is I'm going to waste your time for the next 6 months and hope that you just get tired of looking at things you don't really like.
And I feel guilty enough for me that you're going to not like go use somebody else because I'm an idiot.
Well, and that's really the reality of it. Like, for that agent is like, most of the times the person who loses in the war of attrition is the agent. Like, the person just decides to stop looking for a house. They get tired, they lose momentum, and then they wind up going with somebody else down the road that'll actually help them.
Tell them what they have to change.
Yeah.
No, it's painful. It's painful, but I think that what are your goals? Do you think for this upcoming year, as far as like transactions that you want to do? It's kind of like, it's the end of the year. We're looking at the number of transactions we've done as a real estate group over 2020. What are the goals that you think that you have individually for the number of transactions you'd like to do? I'm
putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mark here. So just all the pressure in the world that's on you. Pick a number.
I'd say something.
It's going to be on record.
Ideally,
on the record, we're putting.
Yeah. Ideally, maybe about 22 to 25.
I was going to pick 25 for you when we talked about it.
Yeah.
So I think I like your intuition there, because I think that's probably a really good number for you to go with.
Yeah.
Yep. Which means he needs lots of referrals, folks, out there. If you care about Mark and want him to feed his family.
Recent closings, shout outs.
Shout outs to Lance Rainey.
Lance Rainey.
Man, he's been, I feel like I should have gotten more on that deal because, he's been following Maven Mondays since day one.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Provided talking material for years.
That's great.
Yeah. Curtis and Michelle Scott.
Awesome.
Yep.
Joseph Estraka.
Yes. Yeah. That was the most recent one for you.
James Bradley.
Yep. James.
Yep. Nice.
You've got quite an extensive list here recently for sure. So it's
Bridget
Williams,
Bridget and Justin.
Yep. I showed, met them at the house.
Yeah.
It was a gorgeous house. Like that view is crazy.
Oh yeah.
Out in Tuttle. That place is beautiful.
Oh yeah. Little lake behind them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's really pretty. What about you guys? Recent closings, shout outs.
Just got Brandon and Wendy Bowman done.
Nice.
Referred by Affiong Span, who also closed this year. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that was a close one right there. Going USDA. Goodness. We literally had to close that day, or else the whole deal was going to bust. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah.
I was like, how did that circumstance even?
No, it doesn't make sense, but it worked. No, I've had so many clients who are just getting money back at closing this year. Like all the earnest money they brought, or most of the earnest money, like, getting a check at closing.
By the way, to be able to do that when you have so many multiple offers.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
No, it's a good place. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a testament to our appraisers out there, folks. Thank the appraisers.
Yes.
You got a terrible job this year. MVP. Not just people want to gripe about you.
Don't envy that position. That's right.
That's right.
Walkers for me, the Walker family. Third closing this year. Somehow miracle stuff there.
Like they closed on their third house this year, you're saying? Yeah.
And then
crazy.
Like
their house appreciated so much from the time whenever they bought it in
the height of COVID.
So like April, they bought in April, and then they turned around and resold it just now. That like it went up enough to cover their
and some like they got some cash back. They walked away with money.
They made money on a house this year.
Months later.
They didn't update the house. They just held it. And
that's how much the market appreciated in a how many months? 5-month window? 6
5 month window.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. So
Walker
family. Jose Palma.
That
was a repeat client. So
awesome. I know recently for me, Marissa and Jordan. I know Robert and Dahlia, and I know Melissa and Terry Gleason.
Yep.
I know there was another one I wanted to give a shout out to, but there's a couple other people.
Yep. No, Unicel Fetty, finally, man, after like 2 years. We had listed his house 2 years ago, and then he just decided, I'm not moving right now. I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
One of my new clients, or one of my clients that closed in August, Joy and Nico Lanzi, he just recently opened up a new trash can cleaning service as well. So he
cleans your trash can? That's amazing.
No. So it's like, they've got a truck. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes by, power washes, like the big trash cans, because those things can get pretty dirty.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Like this is like at your house?
Not at my house. They come to your house though and do it. So
I've always wondered. I've seen those advertisements for businesses like that, and I'm like, well, I really don't care if mine's dirty. I'm going to get it dirty again.
Yeah.
You got some expenditure. What is that called? You've got some extra cash. Like if you can clean your, maybe I bet there's some benefit I don't know about. He needs to expose.
I feel like that's really a good indicator of whether you've made it in life, of whether you can afford to clean your trash.
My trash can needs to be spick and span.
There is some old grass that's been in this trash can out on the side of my house for probably about 1.5 years or 2 years now.
Yes.
And it's been rained on, and it smells like, it smells like poop.
If grass is your only problem in your trash can, man,
It's like this soupy. I mean, it really is sewage. It might as well be sewage in one of my trash cans right now.
Yep.
Sounds like you got a good stew brewing.
What's the name of his company?
It's very organic.
Yeah, I got to look it up.
So I was going to say,
I want to mention Antonio Vaughn too. Like Walt Schimmel referred a bunch of people this year. They've done a bunch of flips with us before, but they
do a fantastic job on remodels. They do an amazing job on remodels.
Scott and Bandy Hendricks. And
So no, that's so 94 transactions in the year. Thank you to all the people who trusted us to help you in what was a very, very trying and difficult year for so many people for buying and selling and figuring out a way to solve, just fix living arrangements for people. I mean, that's
even though sometimes we found raccoon poop in your ductwork and had to deal with that with you. Thank you for enduring that.
We didn't find it in my. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
I was talking about the Hendrix. It was crazy.
But nonetheless, a problem that could be solved.
It's solvable.
Solvable.
Very fixable.
No, that's great. So appreciate all y'all who've trusted us throughout the process, buying and selling houses. And then, of course, Mark, couldn't be happier for you, man.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, everything that the last couple of years, everything the last 1.5 years, it's just, really feeling like it was worth it whenever August hit, and I don't know.
Finally.
Yeah.
Thrilled for you. Thrilled for you. So
awesome.
we're going to,
that is awesome.
Josh, I was going to ask you, you had recently, something else that happened. You bought your house.
Yeah, dude. No, my wife has been, I've been calling on past clients to issue formal apologies. Anyone who I've ever
not
put
to ask
through,
for apologies from them,
right?
But for you to apologize to them,
because I've realized this thing that like the thing that I do for a living, I would not wish on my worst enemy the process that I just went through of moving.
You inflict that on people.
And I do that to people every day. It's terrible. So yeah, we moved last week. Mark came and helped. Nice. No, my wife has suffered through a very small house with children for a long time. And so finally we got our taxes and bookkeeping in the right place this year, where as self-employed people, we could actually finance on properties. So, awesome. We got that all done. So shout out to Michelle for that. She was terrific.
She does a great job. She does a great job for us.
Oh yeah. But so because we finally got those pieces in place last spring, we were able to actually get a pretty awesome home.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Got me a study now, big old entertaining space. We've got, I think, enough seating for like 25 people in our living room. So
is that
we're ready to pack them in.
Socially distanced?
Do you know the count of seating for your living room? I don't.
Hey.
Well, I think we've got a 17er.
That's
17er.
That's right. Yeah. You got to keep this in mind whenever, how many, let's see, just our family would be something like 32 to 35 people,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's true.
You know, when you've got 7 kids, mom and dad, now spouses and 16 grandchildren, it's 32, right? I think
you develop an innate, you can just kind of feel it when you walk into a room.
It's like,
when you have that many people,
this
in
is
your family,
not big enough for the clan.
Well, and then there's that tough, you know, do you want to pick something that actually accommodates the arrangements necessary?
or do you want to make sure
it's just enough space to where maybe you can do something every once in a while, but everybody knows, hey, we're eventually going to be uncomfortable with staying here very long.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so then you're not.
You got to get out of. You got to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just inviting enough. It's just inviting enough. Yep. So
no, but though you mentioned like getting an Ashley credit card or whatever, like, Black Friday was the end of November and I closed mid-December. And so I'm like, I've got to buy everything right now. Right. Because I'm going to get hundreds of dollars off if I just go ahead and spend the money. Right. Yeah. So big shout out to Ginger Short at Ashley Home Store here in Norman.
Yes.
All of their Google reviews are about her because she's actually really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like I'm a connoisseur of good salespeople. Right. And so awesome. She is like, it was literally, it was when it's good. It's
you're gonna let your brother get away with that. A connoisseur of fine salespeople.
Yeah, him and I do the same thing when we get like telemarketers who call us. I will actually want to give them like at least enough time.
They don't suck.
At least enough time to hear how they perform and they do it.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's just like, so I try not to be like a quick hang up,
right,
or whatever. But if
they're bad, man, they're gone.
They're
bad.
So literally, because I just hang up on people. I don't even. No.
But as far as how information in selling really fixes all your problems, I walked into that furniture store as just looking on Black Friday. And I was like, man, I wish I could buy today, but I know that I can't because Dominic's going to kill me if I mess up my financing. Because I get everything, and I'd rather finance it, whatever. And so she explained to me, like, if you put down a certain amount of money now, then we'll hold it until after your house closes, and then you can finance. So it's like you're putting down a deposit to secure the deal.
Sweet.
Earnest money,
but you're not actually on the hook and all that. Yeah, basically, it's like a contract like we have for that. Yeah. And so basically, it made it to where I got crazy deals on my furniture, and it didn't screw up my financing. So
there you go.
That is fantastic.
So I went from like just looking to here's like $4,000 for something in furniture in 15 minutes because of that.
Solved the dilemma.
That's all it is in sales, man.
Good for her. That's great.
She was terrific. So
that's fantastic. Well, congratulations on the home purchase.
Thanks.
Let's play a game.
All right.
Play a game.
So today we'll be playing the voting game. Now we're going to play it Maven style. We're not going to be playing by their rules.
The voting game. It's perfect in an election year.
Let's see here.
Which, by the way, Mark, we didn't mention this when we actually were live, but that number of deals in an election year, and as controversial of an election year as this one, in the middle of COVID, amazing. Like, It's really hard to do. It always slows down. Nobody wants to make a decision.
COVID,
But it makes me so much more excited too for if life gets somewhat normal this next year.
Oh my goodness! Well, it's just there's and even there is stuff like seasonally with people. It's just like typically seasonally they don't. As we transition into the spring, when that comes around, more people are looking to buy and sell. That's typically the case. Mm-hmm. So, no, I think you're in a great spot that way. I was going to ask Josh. I hadn't asked you about this while Jeremy's doing that. I was like, we're probably looking to do some sort of client appreciation promotion that we'll do the drawing in the way that we reveal it on the podcast or something. But
like a thank you drawing.
Yeah, like a thank you drawing. And I hadn't talked to you about the timing exactly when we want to do that, but here's a shameless plug for that potentially happening in the future. So
get ready.
I think
watching the podcast to see.
That's exactly right. So we'll probably do a past client appreciation, some sort of drawing or something that'll just be like, hey, thanks. Here is a turkey baster or something. It'll probably be better than that.
It's going to be a
koozie.
You know it's going to be a Clark Crew
gift card.
That's basically all you tolerate.
Oh my goodness, it's so delicious though. But
where are those things?
AirPods. Mark bought me AirPods.
He's a good gift
for a Christmas gift.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Life-changing.
Thank you. Those are fantastic. And you and I, what was it? It was like, that they're really good. You know that it's really good and it's worth it when it's just, hey, they're pretty expensive. What are they, like $150?
Yeah.
When they're not on that sale or whatever, it was like $150 for AirPods. But if they were broke, and I don't know if there's some sort of warranty or something, if they got broke or stolen or they got lost or whatever,
it'd be the first thing I had to replace.
I'd buy them.
Yeah.
I'd still buy them. They're that good.
It's like,
do you like them better than the other things you had?
Oh yeah.
Before you get them, you think, no way. No way I'd spend money on that.
Are they worth
But then after you get them, you're like, if I ever lost these, I have to have them.
Yeah.
Well, because it's the weight in the ear, like as opposed to the regular headphones,
or like these.
These weigh quite a bit. But no, like when they sit there, they're positioned right in your ear to where like they'll stay there forever.
Previous ones I used.
Ever since Apple switched to that newer model, you remember like maybe iPhone 7, I feel like none of them ever worked for me. There was always just some sort of tug that it would just always fall out.
They wanted to lift too much because there wasn't enough there. Yeah.
Well, one of the ones that I've tried like that in the past, it was like people couldn't hear me near as well on the other side of the phone. And I've never had a problem with that using those AirPods now. Yeah. So thanks.
Yeah. Awesome, you're welcome.
Awesome gift.
Mm-hmm. He's really sentimental. It's really funny. So when he's like, man, I need to take care of this person, he's like goes to level 10 on that.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I use them every day.
Hey, awesome. You got me through a flood zone. So
that was what it was all about. Yeah.
Well, I heard Gary Vee say that the earbuds were the best thing that Apple made, like since the iPhone.
Did he really?
Yeah. And I was like, Gary. That's interesting to hear. I meant to get some. So
yeah, no, they're so good. Okay, so we got the game here. We're basically taking from the voting game, which is a card game that you can find. And
where at?
So I think this is from Target.
Okay.
It was originally a Kickstarter, but now it's
so on this game. What we're gonna do is we are just going to vote straight up. So like each of us will ask a question, and what we'll start with the person who most recently called their mother.
It's her birthday today, so I called her.
Hey Josh, have you called your mom yet?
It was like 2 days ago that I
called her at 11 a.m.
Dang it!
I called my mom a couple of days ago.
I wished her happy birthday at your party.
Did you tell your mom goodbye before you left here, Aaron?
I did.
Yeah, I mean, he may have his beat. He didn't call her, but
how does that work if you live with your mother?
It's probably different than it sounds when you just say it that way.
Yeah,
the actual arrangement is probably different than it sounds. So, I don't know. Let's just say that Mark wins. Let's let him go first.
Sounds good.
Some people can say that they live in their mother's basement. You kind of live in like your mother's attic.
Yeah. That's right.
It's a very, very nice attic that you helped pay for.
Oh, that's so good.
All right. So Mark, you will ask the question and then we will we're going to vote for who we think is that thing in that question. So
when you say who, like who at this table?
Who at this table?
Oh, gosh.
Who at this table? So we're voting. So we each will vote for one of us.
Who has the most obnoxious self-imposed dietary restrictions? Say probably, is it Josh on this one?
I mean, I know my answer.
I'm keto.
I know my answer. Yeah.
Obnoxious? Yeah, I know my answer.
You're because you are the most disciplined when it comes to it,
but
you're exceedingly the most obnoxious about it.
But no, okay, because I actually follow them. But that doesn't mean that the rules.
Jeremy,
my rules are less obnoxious than Jeremy's rules.
Jeremy and I will bend.
I know who I'm voting for. Are we ready to vote?
Yes,
are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
So, Mark, since you asked the question, you can go first.
Who has the most obnoxious self-imposed dietary restriction? And I'm going to go with my brother Josh.
Yes, that's the right answer.
Okay. All right, Aaron.
It's Josh.
Oh no, we're all voting. We all have to say who we say it is. You can't. I'm saying Josh too, but he obviously doesn't. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's you because
Why?
you don't follow. Because they're obnoxious. It's
he just has to pick somebody at the table.
Like you switch between all this. Like it's not always just keto. Sometimes it's the slow carbs. Sometimes and then it's this hybrid model where you mix and match, and it's like. The restrictions don't even all add up and make sense.
Honestly, maybe it's me. I don't eat till 5 every day. So
I mean,
it's obnoxious because it doesn't add up.
Neither of us.
It doesn't add up.
Aaron
that's true.
Aaron is the one that won't eat food off the floor. So. All right, we'll discard that one.
It's because his feet are dirtier.
Clockwise.
It's because his feet are dirtier because he didn't wash them in the shower.
Okay, all right. Wow, I know who I'm already voting on this one. So, who will get into a fight with an elderly person and lose? Oh, well, and lose? Oh, that changes things. Who will get into a fight with an elderly person and lose?
The answer is so obvious. But when you add the second half,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Lose. And lose. I mean, I'm going to say...
How many times have you yelled at someone's grandma this year?
It's so bad.
For me, if it were just who will get into a fight with an elderly person... That's clearly Aaron.
Yeah, but that's not the question, right?
Very obvious.
But I think he's gonna most time he will win. See, for if it's and lose, it'd be me. That's I'm voting for myself. Like,
well, because they'd say something that you thought, maybe
there is a point. Maybe there is something there. Maybe
and they'll give him just enough time to get the right hook.
Yeah, and they get you right in the leg with their walker.
Hey! You dented my ride. What you got there? The 4-volt? I did you a favor. How about I do you a favor upside your head? Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
Hey! Get the bikes!
So who would vote? Who would vote? Let's vote and say who would lose. You want to go first?
Lose. I would vote for Jeremy. I would vote for Jeremy.
Can you vote for yourself at this game?
Yeah. I don't know why not.
Is this a physical fight or is it a...
It really doesn't matter.
I mean...
But that's supposed to mean.
It does matter.
I could beat up an old person if I needed to.
I think it's implied that it's physical.
But you would...
Push comes to shove.
You'd be out and icing them. No matter how bad they were, you'd still try to be nice.
There's a chance I would do that too, though. I think that I would maybe even be more so.
The order of impatience at this table would be I would have the most impatience. He would be next, then you, then you.
Yeah.
I think your patience would be exhausted last, and that is why you would lose at the table.
Okay.
Maybe they can figure a way up these stairs.
So Jeremy's patience would be exhausted last, and so that's why he would ultimately.
They would have
lose.
beaten you up so bad by that point that.
Yes.
All right, your turn, Josh.
Nice. This is a good game. All right. This is good. This is a good question. Who can explain complex concepts to a 5-year-old with ease?
Okay, well.
Oh my goodness.
Hoff would be the only one I could really think of.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's nice.
It is amazing to watch you with children. Like
that's really nice.
Expressing and clarifying the ability
you.
to get to the exact thing that they're misunderstanding and being
really nice.
But you look like you're being mean.
The way
Because
that
you're
I look
so
when I do it?
direct. No, you're so direct with them. No, you're very kind with them. But it's like you won't let them get off the thing.
Well, what are you doing?
But it's the right thing. And it's like, you can't hide right now. Like, this is what you need to do. Whatever. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
I think it's your childlike mind.
That's
your childlike curiosity, even
like a cat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think this is unanimous that it's Aaron.
Yeah, I think it's Aaron. Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about
that's
ATP synthase.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it is good that I do feel like I can communicate things really well to like a 5-year-old or whatever. But mine are like, I don't know. It's just like complex things. I just wish that wasn't
like
so.
Share your toys. It is complex.
Yeah, it's just like. But I hope that doesn't make me not fun. That's my worry. That's my worry with that. It's just like, I hope that doesn't make me boring. Because Jeremy, I would imagine, would be like, very, you would be more interesting to a 5-year-old. And I'm just kind of like, I'm willing to try to be super direct. When I try to explain something to like 5-year-old, and keep in mind, I've got 4 girls under the age of 7. So
lots of experience.
That's part of what everybody here is talking about is they've seen me talk to my daughters.
Well, and my children, like my children. That's like,
true.
You come over and you talk to my children, like, oh, you nailed that.
Here's what's weird about it. Here's what's weird about it is the older people who are there, it's like the people who are older, they see it more mean, but for the kids, for whatever reason, they do not perceive it that way. Mm-hmm. They just perceive it as clear.
Mm-hmm. It's simple.
Weird.
It's direct.
But I think it's
clear.
Hey, thanks, guys.
I think it almost comes off as mean because it's like such an obvious thing that you're presenting to them as like a crazy, opportunity. It's like, oh, it's like, you
this
could
will
share
change your
this.
life if you will do this.
Well, if you just
loving your sister.
Well, hey, that's nice. Hopefully, I do really do that well. All right, so
oh yeah,
that was less painful than I thought that was going to be.
Here, I'll take that one.
Okay, so this I'm just going to draw from the top.
We should play like a game of poker on video. That'd be fun.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so voting again for who would we vote for regarding the following question: who picks truth over dare?
Ooh.
Who picks truth over dare?
Not Jeremy.
Yeah, I definitely take the dare.
He would do dare.
He would take
I think
dare.
you would do dare.
I think he would take dare. Truth over dare.
It's going to be one of us.
I'm almost certain, like in terms of a degree thing, I'm pretty sure it's me. Because
you would take truth over dare more than I would.
I'm so shameless. Like it's literally it's the experience that I had growing up as a teenager where Mark and Grant were my little brothers and they were way quicker wit than I was. And so they would just sit there and make fun of me all day. So there is nothing that I'm not willing to tell somebody. Like it's just, I'll tell somebody.
I mean, Aaron got on this show and told everybody in the world that he does not wash his feet. So, I mean,
he engineered the question.
I do it in an unconventional manner, Jeremy. Yeah. Nuance. We got to bring the nuance to the conversation.
I really think so, and part of it is like Aaron, like I don't know, you seem very, there are certain things you just will not do.
Yeah, no,
I feel like Josh would, there's certain things
he's much more willing to do zany, crazy thing than I'm comfortable with at all. I'll literally sit out. I'm the fuddy-duddy.
He's an entertainer in the group.
He's
an entertainer. You don't care about that.
You got to keep the party going, baby.
I'm like, y'all will get a laugh. Awesome.
So my vote's Aaron. My vote's Aaron.
Oh, interesting. Because I would do the dare thing that he wouldn't do.
That would be my thought.
Interesting.
Yeah. That would be my thought and why I would say you.
I can see that.
This is why I was concerned about the me being boring thing. Maybe I just need to think about whether I'm really boring or not. Well, I need to spend time figuring out.
I don't think most people think you're boring. I think they're usually freaked out. Like, whoa.
you live life on the edge.
He knows who I am.
Way.
I can't. No way.
Aaron's just like, how can I cut the deepest into this conversation? And you're like, roller coaster, woohoo! You know, that's your means of excitement.
Well, what we'll do is we'll have Mark conclude. He'll draw the last one.
We don't want to do one whole more round. This is fun.
So you want to do one more?
Let's do one more round. Yeah.
Do one more thing.
Yeah, let's do one more round.
Okay. Well, we'll find.
It's good.
We'll find a way to shorten the episode then.
It's already way too long.
Because it's just so long.
Oh yeah.
Who has been or would be in an open relationship?
Wow. How do you begin to answer this question?
Let's just answer that one by saying none of us.
There's none of the
I
above.
don't think anybody at this table would be in an open relationship.
But who'd be the most likely? I'm just kidding.
It was has been, right?
Yeah.
Has been.
No.
I have not.
Not even in like middle school. Did you ever have like two girlfriends at the same time?
Not even in like 4th grade.
Yep. See, I didn't go to middle school.
You were homeschooled.
I was homeschooled.
I don't think you saw a girl.
Would have been really
15.
weird if I had two girlfriends in my grade at that.
That's homeschool.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to have more than one in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Always been a single woman.
Just to clarify, that would still be weird.
Should we go ahead and reread?
Yeah, you know the one.
Whose upbringing had the least amount of influences on their life choices?
Least amount of influences on their life choices. Boy, that's super self-reflective.
Wow,
that's
a
a
question.
These questions are great.
Oh.
Wow.
Well, that's very that's
the least.
I feel like these are really good at asking clarifying questions.
No, this
really, game is.
Oh yeah,
man.
There's a weird.
Where to begin with that?
I feel like you have to begin with cows.
Did Jeremy just get stressed? I'm just wondering how much he's trying.
No.
I'm just thinking over here of the contemplation that Jeremy has to be experiencing with this question right now.
Oh yeah.
He's just going through like the history of like 20 years.
Well,
was I influenced?
How much did your time at the cash register in Grove Mart influence your life decisions today?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
because I would feel like it's a far cry from that, but
you don't know the sales skills that are needed for closing on a corn dog.
What type of commission you get on that?
You don't get commission on.
I'm pretty sure
dog.
The crumbs.
I'm pretty sure they closed on that corn dog before they hit the register.
Yeah. You never know. You know, upsell.
That's why you keep them in the front with a display case.
Oh, there you go. That's right.
This is
want a 50-cent corn dog?
50 cents.
That's hard.
Grows on trees. Grows on trees.
Sonic, it's like $1.25, isn't it? No.
Hey, Grove Mart, we had 3 for $1 for a long time. 3 for $1 corn dogs.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote Jeremy, I think, on that.
What do you think?
I'll vote Jeremy just because I know the least about his upbringing.
Nice default.
Whose upbringing had the least amount of influence on their life choice? Whose upbringing had the least amount? Okay, that's interesting.
This is hard to gauge.
It's weird. It is weird.
I was thinking at first. I was thinking Aaron because your parents in education. You're not a teacher, but then you talk about your grandpa, like in the like your grandpa had a big influence on you.
You may as well be your grandpa.
Well,
apparently.
my parents still. I mean, my parents they still have some degree of influence even today. You know,
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
Like,
now that's more about just like character stuff and how I treat people, whatever I go into. But no, it's a hard question to answer. Yeah. Like I'm just like.
Well, the reason I go Jeremy is because it's so small town. Like you were small town, but you were not small. Like when you're talking about the teams that you played in basketball, you're not talking about Poto.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, there was some.
And that's what he's talking about is football.
I lean you because like you come from a homeschool background. And even like in our so the whole business versus entrepreneur.
My children are homeschooled. My dad's self-employed. I mean,
but there's like the business versus entrepreneur, business versus, self-employed.
Right.
Matrix.
Like the do-it-yourself versus,
there's
sure.
like that matrix.
I look at my life as very much trying to build on what my parents laid a foundation for. It's like, I think they built in many ways a good foundation. I talk to Mark about this a lot. Like there's certain things that I think they hit way out of the park. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, how do you go farther with some of the pieces? So,
and for me, like, it's kind of weird. Like I've kind of come full circle with like my grandpa. I didn't really quite understand my grandpa. And then and now I after listening to Tony Robbins a lot and stuff, it's like my grandpa was saying a lot of Tony Robbins things to me. I just didn't realize
that's fascinating.
Like
wow.
he just, that kind of stuff. Like he was always listening to stuff but.
So for me, it's a small town thing. That's what it's like. It's such a far cry from his life.
Because that's down by Ardmore, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's
so my vote's Josh, but that.
Well, here's what's weird is just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, they might answer that thing and be just like, I don't feel like any of us have a particular, we're so in opposition against
our parents,
the influence of the way that we were raised thing.
Right.
That is, I don't think any of us really have that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
Right.
I think all of us.
That's why it's a hard question.
That's why it's a hard question to answer. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Who claims that they could quit their bad habits immediately if only they wanted to?
I love the way it's phrased.
If only they wanted to.
Claim.
Oh my goodness.
Like it's you may as well have just asked who has the least amount of actual self-control and like who justifies the most in their own head. Who claims that they
whose self-awareness is just completely shot.
How offensive is this to answer? Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
If I wanted to really do keto, I really want
Talk to me about your dessert habit.
I feel like your hopefulness is distorted in such a manner that it's probably you who I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I just trusted that Mark would not. I would think it would be Jeremy just because of the hopefulness. You have such a high degree of hopefulness.
It's funny in knowing the entirety of my personality.
Oh, because the whole cycle is you get super hopeful.
Jeremy goes to the crazy 8. Here we see that he is falling into despair, and now he is cycling into anger.
So I would think my pick would be Jeremy on this, and I think because I think some of it was Mark. It's just he wouldn't be as. He doesn't have that degree of hopefulness.
Yeah.
That's kind of
maybe not the ambition on that.
Edging on delusional.
Yeah,
it's teetering on.
I wouldn't even bother trying to address the bad habit, so it couldn't be me.
That's one way to eliminate yourself.
It really does cut through the crap.
I'm going with me. So there you go.
Oh my goodness.
We'll probably go there. All right. This could be taken a lot of different ways. Who gets kicked off the stage singing karaoke?
I know which way I'm going on this. I mean,
there's a lot of ways you can interpret English. Who's most likely to be on the stage in the first place?
I'm voting Josh.
Or who's the worst singer?
He's just going to keep going. Like he's just going to be like, now let me sing.
Who sounds terrible while doing it?
Talk to me. Tell me your name. You blow me off like it's all the same. You lit it fierce and I'm taking away like a bomb. Yeah, baby. She bangs.
See, this is totally one of those things where I think when we argue about this, it's going to be one of those things. It's just, I would think it would be the train wreck would be what would keep the person on the stage. And I would be inclined to think the three, Jeremy, myself, and Mark, would be so obviously the train wrecks for this that your actual ability to perform is what makes me want to say that you would get the boot.
I would.
That is what would get you the boot. That would be my argument.
All right, shut up, Malone. I'll never forget that when I met you at summer camp. I met you at Super Summer. In the morning, he'd be walking down the hall. Like we were in a dorm. We were at OBU in the dorms. And we just met. We were from different churches and stuff.
First thing in the morning, you got to get up and get to
He'd be singing, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" in the hallway.
Belting it up.
Early. And people from like various rooms would just be like, "Shut up, Malone."
It's like, I've known you for 2 days. And you're like, "Shut up, Malone."
Yeah.
How'd you get on a last name basis with me already? Yeah.
That's right.
See, and I met, I don't know if you were there.
I don't think he was.
I met Mark. I must have met Grant. Grant. Yeah.
Oh, way back in the day.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. I'll take that. Because I am the least
interesting,
the least aware when everybody's
That's
ready
the
to be
last
done.
one for you there, Aaron.
It's pretty interesting that you and Jeremy met at Super Summer.
Yeah.
And he counseled me at Falls Creek.
Oh, really? That's right.
Counsel? Was that like a...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That
He
was
counseled
like
me.
counseling.
It's one-on-one.
That was whenever they were trying to coerce you to actually spend time with me.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was that same year.
That's true.
Shackled siblings.
Yep.
I just remember there were a couple of kids I had to follow around and just make sure that they didn't do terrible things. that was my main assignment at Falls
That's really
Creek.
what counseling at Falls Creek is all
What a job that is.
Yes, yeah.
Who is obviously an only child? So none of us are.
That's kind of weird.
None of us
Next
are the
one.
only child here,
It's kind
right?
of weird. Yeah.
None of us are the only child.
We
here.
want a different question.
The only reason I was going to be like was who would we, even though they're not actually an only child,
Right.
who would we assume if we did not know them to be an only child?
Huh.
Maybe me.
I would, of the three of y'all, Mark would be the one. I mean, I don't know. In certain ways, I was an only child. Like,
I mean, he was the baby, so he was the only one of us that was an only.
I would say it's between Mark and Jeremy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But why is that?
Because we don't conflict as much as you guys.
Because they're obsessed with the style.
They're obsessed with the style.
With the drip.
The parents would have had more money and, can wear nicer clothes. Mark's shoe game has been on fleek since like
It's a great
2006.
It's a great shoe game.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if he was a teenager yet and he had great shoes.
I guess just in a vision. I have in my head a vision of a childhood of Jeremy where he is like, he walks around being handed like Little Debbie snacks. And that's just like what his childhood is full of.
I mean, it was very close to that. It was more just me getting as many of them. I remember the first time
they weren't handing them to him. He was making them.
Because for whatever reason, I
did it in front of everybody. I just went to the shelf and I got it and I ate it. And I went back, got another one, ate it. It's just over and over again.
Yeah.
Rinse, wash, repeat. I remember the day we first got pizza sticks at Grove Mart, and I ate myself sick of pizza sticks. I must have had
What
9
are
or 10.
pizza sticks?
It's like a pizza pocket, but it's like narrower.
It's elongated, skinnier,
like a stick,
stuffed with fake pizza.
Pepperoni. We had, I was going to say, like, didn't you try it at school? You didn't have a cafeteria at school.
I mean, I just don't know what a pizza stick is.
You ever had a pizza pocket?
Yeah.
It's like a pizza pocket.
But skinnier? How could it be skinnier than a...
Well, our pizza pockets are like that.
Think of it like a pizza tube.
Yeah.
Like a tube of toothpaste?
Sausage, but not in casing. It's still in bread.
Like a Polish sausage.
We need to make a field trip to Grove Mart someday.
That'd be pretty amazing.
We all spend like $200 each there.
Shoot a Maven show
on corn dogs
on site. I would love that. I would love that.
That's
like do a supermarket sweep episode,
kind of like
thing where you like.
I have a dream. Like, this is funny. Like, I have a dream. Like there's Red River Rivalry and like people do various things. I would love to like Grove Mart have a stop and like maybe like sponsor Grove Mart, like just like giving away corn dogs or something to people on their way to Red River Rivalry. I think that would be so much fun. It's stupid, but like it's fun. I think it'd be really fun.
Squad goals, baby.
If we'll bring back the pizza stick,
See, Jeremy,
maybe that's the route to go.
You're
Maybe that's
competing. You're competing with that Carl's Jr. and Marietta.
Hey, we don't have to
point.
compete. We can team up. We can team up, baby. You know?
Traber and Al are going to be at that Carl's Jr.
But where are
and
the
Marietta.
Mavens going to be? Where are the
Mavens are at Grove Mart.
What a wonderful collaboration that would be.
If we could get
I think that'd be really cool.
Traber Al,
Carl's Jr.
WWLS.
Oh.
Well, for another time when we take on the world, thanks for joining us. The
Thank
Maven
you.
Show.
Yep.
For Aaron Hoffman, Josh Malone, Jeremy Brown, Mark Malone. So glad you could be here with us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Finally. I'm so proud of you.
Awesome.
Happy I deserved it.
Thanks. Finally deserved it. Finally deserved it, right? Is that the way that was?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, thrilled for you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching The Maven Show. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for all the latest clips and episodes. Also, comment below with what you thought was the most interesting or helpful from this video. And if you want to help us out, please like and share our posts on social media. Thanks so much.